The dictionary defines ramble as a walk for pleasure without a definite route. Martha Teichner catches up with a man who went on a ramble and discovered America along the way.
In March 2021, Neil King Jr. left his home in Washington, D.C. and went for a walk. King would walk 330 miles, all the way to New York City. It would take him 26 days. He retraced his steps with us this spring, heading off down the mall with the U.S. Capitol at his back. Did you feel the weight of who we are now and what we are as a country as you set forth?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, this is the front yard, the nation's front yard, and it just seemed like the perfect place to start this walk.
Just weeks after the January 6th attack on the Capitol, after a year of COVID.
Walking through my first covered Amish bridge.
What King experienced along the way, sticking to back roads, would become a book, American Ramble.
I had set out with a wonder first stirred by a sickness. A jolt of fear had opened a seam of freedom, and I had slipped through.
After a career as a Wall Street Journal reporter, the walk was his way of contemplating America, past and present, and at 61, his own life, after surviving esophageal cancer.
I was off to do something that was very pure and basic, which was just to notice things and immerse myself in a walk through one spring that had kind of cleansed my eyes in some ways, or my spirit. You'll see the exact line between Maryland and Pennsylvania, the MasonDixon Line. It runs right through the middle of this incredible 19th century German farm.
The MasonDixon Line, until after the Civil War, the dividing line between slavery and freedom. King asked himself, whose history gets forgotten and who's remembered? Who are the memory keepers?
In the 1700s, it was a mill and a farm.
Up the road in York, Pennsylvania, he visited Michael Helfrich, the mayor.
In the 1920s, you had the migration of African Americans up from Bamberg, South Carolina. But by the 1950s and 1960s, the great fathers of the community decided it was a ghetto, and they used the first use of eminent domain to wipe out the entire neighborhood.
What do they want to put in instead?
You're standing in it, a park, and then to add insult to injury, they took half of the park and gave it to the industry next door for a parking lot and a new building.
The much older Cookus House, built in 1741, barely escaped demolition.
That is Thomas Paine right there.
Helfrich lives in it and has turned it into a shrine to founding father Thomas Paine, who stayed here during the Revolutionary War.
We have here our Underground Railroad conductors.
Across town, King met another of York's memory keepers, Samantha Dorm.
We have United States colored troops. I believe we have about 32 that fought during the Civil War.
Dorm leads the restoration of York's long-neglected African-American Lebanon Cemetery.
Since 2019, our volunteer group coming out here, we've uncovered over 800 of the flat markers.
The point is to rescue the stories of lives.
It makes a difference when you're learning about people who not only look like you, but who are related to you, and to be able to say, I come from greatness. I know now that I'm related to over 100 individuals on this land alone of my family.
Time became a thing that awed Neil King.
This is one of the oldest rivers in the world. It's like the 5th oldest river in the world. It's 320 million years or something, way older than the Nile.
As he made his way along the Susquehanna River with Paul Nevin,
we have all these different tracks in here.
who whose passion is these Native American petroglyphs, possibly 1,000 years old.
There's a bird track here. We have, this is a little infant-size human footprint here. And then this is like a serpent would make, a creepy crawly.
As King walked, time seemed to slow down and then stop altogether as he found himself among Pennsylvania's Mennonites. He chanced upon this. And then this.
Well, the serendipity was the magic. And I met, so many great people that I almost felt were put there by some higher power to interact with me.
He drifted from the ethereal to the concrete, to the very real world of everything his walk was not.
I have arrived at where I've wanted to come, which is the heart of darkness itself. That is to say, the Jersey Turnpike, I-95, the main artery of commerce for the United States of America.
Time took on new meaning as he toured the final resting place of some of that commerce, New Jersey's Middlesex County landfill, with Brian Murray, the man who runs it.
We tip about 1,600 tons of garbage a day. And last year we buried somewhere around just shy of about 540,000 tons of garbage.
On top of an astonishing garbage mountain that will rise another 12 feet this year.
We're walking through a whole scale of time, a measure of time.
Where are we right here?
I think we're like the early 60s, maybe the late 50s. So end of the Eisenhower administration, basically. And up there is today. And this bridge, right there.
A depressing return to now? No. As King crossed the Bayonne Bridge, he spotted his destination, Manhattan.
I was just sort of overwhelmed. It was like I was hit by a wave of elation, rapture, a full body sense of elation. It wasn't like the city was some new thing, but my eyes had been renewed in a way.
A day later, Neil King Jr.'s American Ramble ended at the Ramble in New York Central Park, a twisted network of paths that reminded him of the complexity of the country he had sampled.
In the end, I think the walk, despite all the kind of gloomy thoughts that you can have about various episodes from our history and our past, left me a lot more optimistic in a way about our future than had been the case when I walked out the door.
To find gratitude and joy at 3 miles an hour, traveling light.